That's not gonna be a- stop.
Apparently, software was saying it's-
I know. Let's do some minute. So it's.
They were, yeah, they were saying that the state's got a checklist. Well, you got the pool, just. You got the water,
Pay some of that.
sewer, and everything's got a value.
You know, Kate Crowley's done a lot of.
But the thing of it is, they keep increasing our value.
Did we get some standing on the agenda?
No, the state's just here, visitor.
Okay, we are recording.
All right, well, let's get this meeting started. March meeting of the Cannabis Planning Board. Everyone made it here. CEO is here. Lee Sullivan's here as a guest, just to see what's going on tonight. And so we will start by calling the roll, please.
Chairman May. Mr. Craig here, Mr. Angard
Here.
Mr. Crowe, Mr. Udy
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Vice Chair McCombs.
Here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a very light meeting tonight. We have a couple of follow-ups on old business. We didn't make that on the agenda, but just correct them when we get there.
It is. I just.
But this one. I had just turned it on, it must have gone off. So. Okay, so privilege of the floor, anything anyone wants to mention that's not on the agenda? Okay, we will move to approval of the minutes of the February meeting. Holly did an excellent job on them. I did not find anything. Anyone have any corrections on the minutes? Okay, and motion to approve them is, I'll make a motion to approve them.
Second.
All in favor? Good job. Reports, as usual, these complete. Town board met on March 13th. And a whole lot here. They did hold a public hearing. Town board adjourned. They came to meet as the town board of health. Town board of health, and they had a variance request in front of them for a property at 6600 South Old Ball Hill Road for a septic setback variance. They have submitted that variance request to the Board of Health. Bill Grove, who's the engineer out of Naples and does almost all of the septic systems for our town, job. He was present by Zoom, and he had submitted the plan, all conforming to the New York State Board of Health. Did not, however, fit with our local code. Just remember, our local code is much more strict in terms of setbacks and property lines and roads than New York State. It's like 75 feet, I believe. In New York State is 80 feet.
Yeah, so we're
New York State, I believe,
eight,
is 10.
10 feet, yeah.
So oftentimes people in town are not able to meet that. They have their system engineered by the engineer. Meets all the requirements that comes with some Board of Health, and they give a area variance. This meeting, there were several residents in attendance by Zoom. The residents and neighbors of this property got together, and they voiced strong during the public hearing, or the open comment part of this variance hearing. They voiced strong concerns about having another septic system in this location. There are several houses side by side, and it's in an area on South Old Ball Hill. It's quite steep. Kind of interesting to me that they could actually engineer a system, but they did, and it met the codes, except for the setback. But the neighbors were extremely local, they had written a letter of objection submitted to the town supervisor, who's on Board of health, obviously. Asking that they deny that variance request. Their concerns were rather nebulous in my mind. They were saying there are already a lot of houses there, they all have septic systems, you wanna add another septic system to this area. Perhaps the area won't be able to support it, just pure conjecture. One of the neighbors said, well, we might have to have our well replaced next, in the next few years, and if you give them a septic system, then I'm gonna be restricted and we're replacing, a lot of what ifs. And, they had a valid concern, but permit other than these setback. Not all of the requirements, and in fact, the overriding fact was it been engineered by Bill Grove, this state survey engineer. So there was some concerns, and in my opinion, the local board of health was quite lenient. Because they asked for a look at the engineered plans for the septic system. That kind of threw the town, board of health, I didn't think they knew exactly how to respond. They said, okay, well, you're welcome to do anything you want. They didn't volunteer, give them the plan, but they kind of took their consideration. Wanting to potentially even have another engineer with the plans. I don't know the legalities and all that. So in any event, they listened to the concerns, the board of health tabled their answer request. We will resume the public hearing for next meeting. So that was a lot of discussions and a lot of time. And that's what's going to happen. And Joe was there, the CEO was there at the meeting. We had his comments that things were conformed other than one setback. So that took a long time on the meeting, and they had several people as well. Agenda. Reports, town clerk, regular report, CEO, reported they had 17 short-term rental applications. New ones, top of the ones they already had in was working on. Highway department has done plowing and sanding. A lot of tree cleanups, all these ash trees around, every time the wind blows, they're falling into the road, so they're doing a lot of tree work. Patch some potholes, they're doing stockpiling salt and sand. And I noticed when we came to sleep, we were doing stockpiling some gravel and stone for spring project. They did sell the 2013 Mack truck, one of the big plow trucks, $68,700 they got for that. Sold it to another town in the area, a town that's bought several of our trucks. And they're ordering a new truck. Well, they were busy. Clear Lake Watershed Task Force. Pardon?
It's battery powered.
It is not. It's a long lead time, obviously, if they order it now, I think they're looking at end of 24 or 25 actually.
They canceled our Maverick order. They didn't come
Oh,
out
they
and
did?
say, they didn't come out and say that they canceled it for the CEOs, but they said that they're not building them anymore. So they pretty much,
We're gonna get a Maverick for you to use as CEO.
yeah, it was on order. It's been on order for a year and a half now. And they told us like a two-year deadline that we should have it. So it was coming up close, and they just emailed Jeremy last week and said we're not getting it essentially. It's a small truck, four-wheel drive.
It's small, for exclusive use for the CEO, so I don't have to use it on vehicles.
Yeah, there's a lot of stipulations lately, especially with the state, even in the small townships of using personal vehicles. But in the area, we're not like Richmond. They have a small little car. Yeah, well, it's only front wheel drive too. And
Oh.
we would be. I mean, we have a lot of different areas that.
What about electric?
No,
So, the highway department is always on this rotation of, they basically lease vehicles. or purchase them over a time frame, and so the budget set up to pay a certain amount on every vehicle. And every so many years they replace on schedule. Trucks, loaders, airline, a grader, those kinds of things. So they're always kind of dealing with vehicles. Lake Lake Watershed Task Force. I didn't write down anything, but it's nothing kind of interesting there. Water district operations, everything is going smoothly. They managed to reduce the amount of unaccounted for water. These are, I think, in the water district. They're considering giving a tax exemption to volunteer firefighters, well, first responders, volunteer firefighters, and EMTs. The town tabled it, they didn't really move ahead, they were waiting for some other towns to put in some laws and get those perhaps copied up. So that items is pushed off on the sideline. I hear about it sometime very soon. Other than that, they renewed a couple of contracts with Williamson Code, Williamson Law Book, software support contracts. They are putting out soliciting bids for the town hall sidewalk replacement and repair. It's in pretty bad shape. Steel safety bids are in areas. Yeah, looking for somebody to mow cemetery, Canada's Hollow Cemetery, as well as the town hall property. If you know anybody, or just contact the supervisor. And that was pretty much done. Questions? We move on to the county plan. Steve. March 8th.
Attended that March 8th County Planning Board meeting. At the start of the meeting, we had Tom Harvey come in, gave like a 25-minute presentation on this New York State climate control proposals. It was pretty good. Hit on bullet points. And obviously one of the biggest ones I went away with is, you know, when we think of the need for energy, it's mostly concentrated downstate. However, to provide that with the solar intent, they're relying on upstate because they don't have obviously the room to do that. So, you know, we have to support that for downstate. That's just one takeaway I took from it. If anyone's interested in looking at the County Planning Board annual report, which Linda Phillips prepares every year, that just got finalized and was put on the website. It's a good report again. She put a lot of time and effort into it. And again, she looks at trends, changes from, you know, different periods and the type of applications that we're seeing. And like I say, it was a good report, interesting. But again, that's on the website. And then she mentioned there April 13th at the county complex out on County Road 48. April 13th from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. There's a in-person training. Conceivably, if anyone were to attend, they could get at least 3.5 hours of training. And it's going to be divided up into floodplain regulations and affordable housing. So
I believe I forwarded that.
it probably did, but I'm, oh no.
There were links to this.
I've got the link here, okay, if anyone needs it.
Yeah, it's two sections. You can give you a break.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Middle of it.
Normally they throw in that 30 minutes is,
They
in-
count that as training.
yeah. So I say you could get 3.5 hours. I'm gonna go to it because
Good.
it
Get
sounds
training
interesting.
early this year. Now it's not all wait till December.
yeah, I know it. I didn't
Wait till December.
like doing it. But if anyone needs, or they can go on the the website, but I,
Sure.
it's there. But it's,
Okay, I don't know if, I thought I sent it and you didn't get it, there's something up.
but again, it's April 13th from 5 to 8:30 at the county complex.
That is the safety training.
Part, yeah, that's it. It's the actual address is 2914 County Road 48. That's it. Just,
I will look and see if I did send it out. It's
all day one, two, going around with the state.
Oh.
May, is that?
yeah, but
they did forward that. If Genesee Finger
it
Lakes-
was once to drive to Batavia, you know? You would, I know.
For training, I drive in.
I like.
Uh,
Yes, anything else?
and the referrals we had, really nothing, I say this like a broken record, but nothing of interest and nothing really of any of interest in our surrounding towns that we had joined. That we might tag off of, really nothing there.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve? Thanks a lot, Steve. Zoning board, I didn't see any minutes and they didn't have any sound on their recording, so I they met,
They didn't.
no meeting. And code enforcement, Joe gave us his monthly report. We looked over, got any question for Joe? You have anything to add to it or? share with us?
Short-term rental,
Not well.
people don't like it or?
It's just like I have 17 sitting on my desk and some of them have been sitting there for a year. So I decided, because Steve before me had left the checks with the applications. But our town code says it's a application fee and it's non-refundable, so I had Rich go through and start processing all the applications. And so far, we haven't had any problems, but we have had 2 more come in and I did 2 more inspections and just, it's hard to get people to follow the checklist and stay in compliance. You know, once they realize they're not in compliance, they ghost you. You don't hear anything from them. So I know there was something in the works about sending out another letter. I don't know where we're at with that, but
They were waiting for
Code update,
for the penalty.
and we're gonna update the code. And so
right, I know it was voted on and you guys were good with it, right?
Oh, yeah, we
Town board is-
we submitted it to the town board.
Okay.
Recommending that they don't update the code. And the supervisor told me they were waiting until we got a couple of them together to send in. I did not ask them for the last meeting. I'll ask them.
That's what, 3 months ago?
That was a while ago. And yeah, they did want to send out a second round of police cards, but until we update the code. Really, it's really not, so it's still on hold as far as we can jump. And I noticed on the report, you didn't have any data for them, is there a reason that? We didn't.
Because there hasn't been
Because we
any,
haven't had it.
yeah,
We haven't
because
had any
it's-
issue this year, this is the February report.
Right.
Anything else for us, Joe?
I don't believe so, no.
Is there a specific part of the checklist or a specific thing you're finding that people aren't complying with that's causing them to ghost you?
It's the fire safety compliance and the, it's more or less the safety stuff, the emergency evacuation in each room. The labeling of the property. I've had trouble with people that, they got permits, but then they take their signs down. And I mean, that's one of the laws in the town code saying that it has to be labeled as a Airbnb or a short-term rental, so people like neighbors know why there's different vehicles there. And so on, and people tend to really hate that one. And then the other part too is each room in the house lets them have a certain amount of parking spots. So if they don't have that amount of parking spots, then that room can't be a dwelling. It gets kind of convoluted. But mostly it's the fire extinguishers, the emergency evacuation plans and the signage.
That was what number one concern.
That was really one of the main reasons I have this thing is for the safety features and,
Safety.
and so that we know where these properties are located.
Yeah, and they're still looking in the liability part of it also. Because Sheila had mentioned that they also should mention the town on their liability insurance. It's kind of she said it's complicated and it's hard to understand it, but the town of Canada should be mentioned on their liability insurance certificate.
Is that strictly because we're issuing a permit or just because they're located?
Because we're issuing the permit for them to allow people to stay there.
Like,
Yes, so it's pretty much if something happens, if something happens and the tenant decides to sue the town of Canada's, the owner of the property's insurance would cover it if there was wrongdoing by Canada's. So really, we'd be covering our own butts. So our insurance company doesn't have to pay for anything that had mishaps.
Is there anything with ADA compliance? Or disabilities?
There is, there is. And it's very generalized because for short-term rentals, there has to be an ADA compliant signage or something saying in the verbiage of advertising that it's ADA compliant. It doesn't necessarily have to be ADA compliant.
Sounds like kind of a rough roll here.
Yeah. Just things.
Okay, anything else? See that? Thanks. We're looking through here. So old business, I had none at the time we put the agenda together. Just tonight, Mrs. Costanza, remember, Dave, Gabriel and Melissa Costanza, South Ball Hill. Came with a subdivision application, we processed it. We got the final survey map, and there were some things needed. Well, the survey maps up there, everything that we'd asked for is on there, the location of the driveway. To the main residence, the location of the well and septic are all on there, as well as the notation that the back portion of the annex to the top lot on that map. So everything looks in order. So I signed it and stamped it. So that one's all done. The other old business is the Shaw site plan. That was being held up due to the re-subdivision requirement. You recall, we did not have enough road frontage on County Road 37. However, they owned the adjacent property, so they did do a re-subdivision. We processed that way back in November. County finally came through with the re-subdivision. The map, so it's now a single property. So that was one of the last conditions for the final approval. And the engineer was the final site plan map. Location of the well established system. So we got this subdivision done, but we don't have the final maps, so we're gonna send them in. And then that will be done as well. And that, once they do that, they can do the building. Shaw's. Either it's on 66, it's on West Lake Road and then there, so, but we don't have the final site.
Right, I was supposed to speak to the engineer about his concerns with the fire access.
Right,
But the meeting got canceled 2 different times, so
so that one is almost done. Get that one off the books. And that's all I had for any old business updates. We don't have any new business. I did just see the Just picked it up with mailbox, it's like a subdivision application, and nothing about it yet, but we'll get it, perhaps get that, check it for next week. With that, privilege of the floor, anything anybody wants to? Be a record.
Motion to adjourn.
There a second? I heard her, I saw your hand, but I heard her voice. All in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming out on this snowy night. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Yeah.